He just may be the next Secretary of State. But he's only 14. You're going to love this young man. Max Levine is my guest. Who's Max Levine? You don't know Max Levine? By the time you're done, everyone's going to know Max Levine, or by the time he's done. He is a top 10 finalist in the GOB. Not the spelling bee, but the GOB. That'd be geography for those of you in Johnston. That was awful. It's Friday night. Oh, now I'll get some feedback on your state of mind. Nice to have you in. Dan Yorke here. Come on. Don't take it so seriously. All right, let's go to the newsmaker or the rundown or whatever we call this thing. You got to know, we've had quite the day here getting this show together tonight. The House Speaker, in all seriousness, doubling down on the sellout, and this is not good news. This is intellectual dishonesty on the part of the Providence Journal, and I guess I'm the only one who's going to call them out on it, so I shall. What else do we have here? I mean, you want to talk about a solution sitting there for this gubernatorial candidate that he can't figure out, which tells me something's wrong with the story. This is just something I will have trouble saying, really. And some progress in the NBA controversy du jour. And listen, it's only May, for crying out loud, you know? Let's break it down. Let's do it. Doubling down on the sellout. Yeah, here's the headline today in the Journal. House Speaker says the state ought to pay the 38 Studios bonds. I'm not surprised by this. You saw the ebb and flow of this kind of coming, but let's Eyewitness News surmise what happened yesterday, and then we'll opine a little bit.
In a closed-door caucus Thursday, House Speaker Nicholas Mattiello revealed he wants to steer the state towards paying back the 38 Studios bonds. Mattiello's members gave an overwhelming response of support. And though he wasn't in the meeting, Governor Lincoln Chafee tells Eyewitness News he applauds the Speaker on his position.
It's a tough decision, we all know that, to have to pay this $12.5 million, but it's the right thing to do for the future of Rhode Island. And a common sense, always, whether you call it horse sense or common sense, you have to pay your debts. There's usually no way around that.
In a previous interview with Eyewitness News, Chafee said he's furious with many Republicans who are against taxpayers paying back the roughly $90 million in debt from the state's investment in 38 studios. Mattiello tells us he agrees, and the state should pay to protect its credit ratings and economic reputation.
At this point, I'm not looking to spend another $75,000 of the state's money to reach a conclusion that every expert that we've brought in has said unanimously.
Yeah, well, you know, the kind of experts that the Speaker has either heard from or been brought in by the administration all have an interest in us paying this debt. The bond issue is one thing. We'll be having, well, plenty of time to keep talking about this one, I can promise you. But the behavior of the legislature and the oversight process are another completely. Now, you'll remember that Mr. Mattiello came in on some kind of a ride here saying that we're going to change things, and he put Karen McBeth, the state representative from Cumberland, into the oversight position, right? She is looking to get answers from people as to what happened back in June of 2010 when this loan guarantee program was first assembled by geniuses who ran a stealth operation. Well, Mr. Mattiello told Gene Valicente on the WPR Morning News this morning that he doesn't see the reason for toughening up this process.
Right now, we have a federal investigation and a state investigation that I strongly believe is ongoing. There is nothing that a House Finance Oversight Committee that's legislative in nature is going to do to enhance those investigations. I believe, and I don't know this, but I believe that based on the news reports that I see, that the investigation is going to be fruitful, and whatever lid is on this thing is going to be blown off, and the public is going to be fully informed of what went wrong in this situation.
You know, I have a philosophical difference with the Speaker. The House of Representatives should be able to police itself, just like they do in Washington. Okay? We can do two things at once here. But Ms. McBeth, the state representative from Cumberland, who's the new oversight chairman, just got left at the political altar.
Has the Speaker gone public and said that he himself won't do it? I guess he has. It's not going to stop the committee from getting answers. And in listening to your clip, and he says that the federal state investigations, and we're not going to find anything out that they don't already know or are pursuing. I disagree.
He has lobotomized this entire oversight committee. This is bad politics, too fast for Nick Mattiello. More on it next week, but he doubled down the wrong way, seems to me. All right, next item. There's a lot of coverage going on here on 38 Studios, and here's some breaking news from the Providence Journal. Here's their headline today. This is on this guy Corso, the insider, who stood to make millions and millions of dollars, perhaps, on all the multiple contracts he had. Here's the problem with the story in the Providence Journal. It's not an exclusive, it's not front page, and it's not their own. It's Tim White's story. If you look at the headline on WPRI.com a couple of weeks ago, Channel 12 brought you all of the documents, all of the contracts, all of the basis for the story on the front page today. And I just want you to understand something. Look, media is a competitive business. The Providence Journal, by and large, is the paper of record, no doubt. I have profound respect for the journalists there and for the paper at large. But they got to knock this off. What they do sometimes when they've got a competitive story and they get beat on it is that they wait a week or two and then they bring it out as if it's brand new. That's unfair to the consumer of news, and I'm giving you some advice. Pay attention to what you think are exclusives, because you shouldn't be confused. This is not additional news from that whole contract breakout that Tim had on Channel 12 a week or two ago. It's the same story. Providence Journal pulls this stunt often. It's intellectual, journalistic dishonesty. Stop it. Next item. This is unbelievable. So check this out. Yesterday, Clay Pell, candidate for governor, the Democrat, spending a lot of money on this whole thing, grandson of the late great Clay Pell. Anyway, he touts this idea that he's multilingual and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, as do his best advisors and supporters, like Bob Walsh of the NEA, who was here a couple of weeks ago, who did this resume, a rapid resume. Watch this.
Instead of being lieutenant governor, being a lieutenant in the Coast Guard, and instead of being Secretary of State, being an undersecretary of education, and instead of being Attorney General, being a Judge Advocate General and prosecuting real cases in the military, is equivalent and formidable and impressive experience, and you add to that his service in national security right in the White House, right in that Situation Room. His credentials match up pound for pound with the other candidates in the primary and the general election, and the fact that he speaks 4 different languages is a bonus.
So ABC6 reporter Mark Curtis, in a press conference yesterday, asked Clay Pell about the legitimacy of his senior advising status at the White House and his languages. Here's how he reacted to the language question.
I used these languages, Chinese and Spanish, in order to represent the Coast Guard with foreign military personnel.
Okay, here's the point. He's been challenged as to whether he can actually speak 4 languages. Let me ask you a question. If I challenged you as to whether you could speak a language, what would you do to respond? Anybody? Jess, what would you do?
I would answer you in that language, Dan.
Jess says, I would answer you in that language, Dan. And Jess wins. Rox, tell her what she's won. Right? Instead, he starts blah, 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 blah. I used the link. Clay, roll into some Chinese, roll into some Arabic, roll into some Spanish, and we know you're challenged with English, but 3 out of 4 is not bad. We find out that he can't speak that stuff, his campaign's over. FYI. Next item. Great. Your Honor, Richard Leach, Director of Administration, former Lieutenant Governor, blah, 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 and double agent, in my mind, in the Chafee administration, has been named a judge. Here's the headline. Of course, the Senate's got to confirm him, but you know the inside politics, it will happen. All I can say is, you know what? It's time that we change the way we took a look at picking judges. There were some really good candidates out there. It is a shame when the insider gets these. Your Honor, not for me. Not now, anyway. Next item. Yes, very interesting. So Donald Sterling, the owner of the Clippers, the NBA, you know, with the whole racial problem, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm not selling my team. You can't force me to sell my team. Well, guess what? We have a headline here, USA Today. He's going to sell it to his wife. and his wife, who said, I'm not giving up 50% ownership of my team, blah, 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 and fighting with him, and he's, you know, hanging out with the young girl who sold him out with the tape of the racial comments and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, she's agreeing to take a minority position and sell the team for her husband. So it's not quite the Henny Youngman thing, but it's kind of close. It'll avoid a big strike or boycott by the players coming up next fall, that's for sure. And finally, don't sweat it. All the Red Sox, oh, 7-game losing streak, 7-game losing streak. By the way, it's May. I know you're 20-26. I know you're 5 games behind, but just think of who's leading the division. Toronto and Baltimore. There's like a universal law. Toronto and Baltimore can't win the division. It's against karma, astrology, something. It'll be the Yankees and the Sox before it's all over, so don't get your panties in a bundle, okay? When we come back, and that's from the Yankee fan, when we come back, the next Secretary of State, actually, pretty good competitor in the GOP. Stay with us.
Here's your question. Name the longest river in Asia.
The Yangtze River.
That is correct.
Well, I got to tell you, this is a young man I've been looking forward to meeting because I first heard him on the radio on WPRO. You know, when you hear a 14-year-old so polite, it kind of stands out, which is a shame today, but that's a whole big other conversation. Look at this. This is fascinating.
From the National Geographic headquarters in Washington, D.C., welcome to the 26th National Geographic Bee. Here are the 10 finalists. From Rhode Island, 14-year-old Max Levine studies Mandarin and has already been to 18 countries.
If I could have any job in the U.S. government, it would be the Secretary of State. I mean, even though the president is like the head honcho, the Secretary of State gets so much more action. Geography is everything to me, which is kind of corny, but I think geography connects every society and every culture in today's world, and to be a global citizen, you really have to have a good understanding of it.
That's great stuff. Congratulations.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Well, here we go. I told you, might be the most polite 14-year-old that I've ever met. Wheeler School?
Yes.
8th grade?
8th grade, yes.
All right. Secretary of State in the future for you?
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, that's my ideal job in the U.S. government, but if that doesn't work out, I'd be happy with being a diplomat or working for the State Department or the Department of the Interior.
Really? Why do I feel like I'm talking to someone? Did you ever see the movie Big?
No, I haven't.
You haven't seen with Tom Hanks? You haven't seen the movie Big? You know, where the older adult is actually in the body of a younger person. You got to. It's like 99 cents. Go rent it. It's a funny movie. I feel like I'm talking to a 52-year-old guy in a 14-year-old's body. How did you get so smart? I mean, where did this all come from?
Well, thanks. I'm flattered, but
no, really. This whole notion of Secretary of State, or maybe I concede to a diplomat position. I mean, that's amazing. The Wheeler School education. Your parents are bringing you up.
Absolutely.
Combination of both.
Wheeler. My parents have always, driven in politeness and manners is always something that's one of the most important things. So.
Amen to that. But your acumen for this kind of governmental, geopolitical type of stuff, where did that all come from?
Well, I think that came from because Wheeler is based a lot on academics, and they put a lot of pride. They take a lot of pride in their academics, and I also would consider myself to be an academic, but I'm not so much into math and science as I am into political science and geography and the study of the world.
Do you know any other 14-year-olds that would say I consider myself an academic?
Maybe a few of my friends, but...
Really? It must be cool in your environment to be smart.
It's really fun at Wheeler because, everybody at Wheeler is valued for whatever they're good at, and I happen to be good at geography, so people, really just support me.
Where did you come up with this interest in geography?
I think it all started when I got a placemat with a map of the United States on it, and it had the capitals in it as well, and I used to like to color it and mark the flight paths that I took when we went on vacation.
And what was that, when you were 2?
I think it was not that young, but I think it was when I was 4 or 5.
Yeah. I heard you on the radio trying to, dodge all the state capitol questions. It seemed to me, though, when I was listening to you, that that's like small potatoes for you. Like the American states capitals, you could do that in your sleep. I mean, you're a top 10 National Geo beer, right?
Yes.
Piece of cake. What? Well, let's talk about the contest itself and you finishing in the. This is not your first time.
This isn't my first time at nationals, but it was my first time and last time in the top 10.
Why last time? You retiring?
Well,
To become Secretary of State?
I wish, but it only goes from 4th to 8th grade, so once you're in 8th grade, you're not allowed to compete
There's
anymore.
no more GeoB?
No. They do have something called the U.S. Geography Olympiad, though, so I'm looking into that.
For who?
It's for students that are age 14 to 19, so
Okay.
mostly high school students.
All right, so you got to get your game on for that one.
Yes, I have to keep studying.
Tell me about your experience with this nationally televised event. Pretty cool.
Well, going to Washington itself is amazing. After you win your state B, you get some cool prizes. I got a new atlas and a check, and then they pay for my trip to Washington and all the other 53 contestants. You get to stay at a really nice hotel there. They have lots of cool activities. We went on a trolley ride around D.C. We had a fun barbecue one night. And then the second day at the hotel is the preliminary rounds, where they have 9 questions, and the number of questions you get in that round determines if you're going to get into the top 10 or not. If you get 9 or a perfect score, you're usually guaranteed a spot in the top 10. 8, you go to tiebreakers, and then anything less than 8, you usually can't make it. But after that, the top 10 is 2 days later, and then that night, kids from each of the states bring souvenirs for all of the other 53 students, like a pin or something. And I would personally like to thank this year Dave's Coffee Syrup, because they sponsored me and sent down 60 free samples of the coffee syrup to Washington so I could give it out.
I think we covered that. When we come back, what did he go out on? You must have messed something up, right?
I
Not to
did.
win? Oh, hold on. Suspense. We'll be right back. Oh, by the way, violin, Mandarin, we caught that. You play the violin?
Yes, I do.
Are you as good at the violin as you are at geography?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not even close.
Well, next time you come in, bring the violin. Right? And you speak Mandarin.
I do. I'm learning Mandarin at school now, and I take Spanish as well.
If I said to you, I don't believe you speak Mandarin, what would you say to me?
我当然会说中文.
Maybe you ought to run for governor. Because the candidate for governor doesn't know how to answer that question. I don't believe, right? I mean, hello. You can teach him something. You got to be Secretary of State, so you could talk to him a little bit about what he ought to be doing. So what question did you go out on the National Geographic Bee?
They had a really tough round, and they would show you a map of a city, just a street map, no words on it, nothing. Then for me, they played a little bit of sort of Arabian-sounding music. They showed me the top of a mosque, and then they said something in Arabic, and then they asked me to either name the city or the continent. And I figured it was the Middle East, so I said Asia because I wasn't sure about the city. But it turned out to be Alexandria, Egypt, which is in Africa. So I did go out on that question.
What did the winner, know?
The winner, Akil, who I'm actually good friends with, is just extremely smart. He stayed calm. He missed a few questions, but he managed to just power it out through the whole bee, and I'm really happy that he won.
So not only is he polite, he's diplomatic and sportsmanlike. I'm taking notes. You're inspiring a lot of people who are watching this right now. So, what do you want to be when you grow up, other than Secretary of State? Thought about a college or anything like that? It's too early for those kind of questions, don't you think? You see, when you're 14 and so mature, people ask you these kind of questions all the time, right? What do you think?
For colleges, I'd like to go to either a liberal arts school, with sort of a smaller college population. But that said, if I got into an Ivy League, I don't think I'd turn it down.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have much trouble.
Well,
so what is your geopolitical worldview? I mean, do you have a thought on the way the world is working right now? I mean, it's easy. I mean, it's not easy, but your forte is knowing where things are, right? But what does that mean with all the travel that you've done? And what do you have a worldview, a philosophy, a concept?
Well, it's just interesting for me to have been able to see so much of the world already, and I just...
How did you get to travel so much?
My parents are very generous in that aspect,
Obviously.
and they've always sort of promoted traveling, and it was always one of the most important things in
Good
our
stuff.
family.
So back to your question. Back to my question. Worldview. Thought about the world.
Worldviews. Well, I mean, the world has kind of dug itself into a hole right now that just keeps getting deeper and deeper, you know, with all of these problems like the energy crisis and the population crisis and all these other problems. And so many wars and genocide and slavery do still exist in the world. The last country to abolish slavery was Mauritania, and they didn't do so until 2009. So, you know, not perfect. But I think just if everybody had a better understanding of geography and where places are and how to get along with other cultures and other people, you know, I think the world would be a better place.
You know, amen, brother. I mean, he's absolutely right. Do you know that there are people like in Western Mass that don't even know where Rhode Island is? I have relatives, in-laws. They'll say, you moved, huh? Where's Rhode Island anyway? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have them contact Max Levine. Is that okay with you?
Fine by me.
Congratulations, young man.
Thank you.
You are a pleasure. Don't lose that spirit. All right.
I'll try.
Come back and see us when, I don't know, when you want to. I'll hang out with you anytime. Final word, your state of mind when we come back. Oh my goodness, your state of mind, 228-1886. Email me, tweet at me, Facebook post. We took too much time with Max. Actually, we didn't take enough time with Max. We'll get to your state of mind next week, no doubt. What a funny line. Prove to me that you speak Mandarin. Oh, hey, Clay Pell, go see Max. See ya.